In the peaceful savannah village of Naira, there lived a young girl named Naira, born with a neck longer than anyone had ever seen. A neck so tall and graceful that when she walked, it looked as though she carried a small piece of the sky with her. But instead of admiring this blessing, the villagers mocked her endlessly, calling her names like Tower Girl, Giraffe Child, and Sky Stick, making Naira cry silently every night as she wondered why she was made different, why the Creator chose her alone for such a difficult gift. Yet her mother always wiped her tears and said, "My child, you are not strange. You are chosen for something the rest of us cannot see," though Naira never believed it. Every morning when she walked to fetch water from the river, children would point and giggle, adults whispered among themselves, and even travelers stared at her like she was a spectacle. And slowly Naira learned to keep her head low, though ironically keeping her head low was nearly impossible for someone whose neck reached the clouds. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, something extraordinary happened. A flock of sacred sky cranes, birds the villagers believed were messengers of the heavens, suddenly descended near Naira, circling her in a slow mystical dance, singing a melody only she seemed to understand, and all the villagers froze in shock, for these birds never approached humans, let alone gather around one. But when the eldest crane moved forward and gently rested its head on Naira's shoulder, the entire village gasped. It was as if the heavens themselves were bowing to her. The crane then stretched its long neck beside hers, and everyone realized they looked the same, elegant, tall, royal. That night, the village elders called a grand meeting and declared that Naira was the long-awaited daughter of the sky cranes, a child blessed with height so she could see dangers long before they reached the village. Soon after, during harvest season, a massive bushfire started on the far side of the plains, still invisible to everyone, except Naira, whose tall neck allowed her to see the smoke rising beyond the hills, and with all the strength in her heart, she ran to the center of the village, shouting warnings, helping shepherds save their cattle, mothers gather their children, and warriors guide the elderly away from danger. And when the fire finally reached the outskirts, the entire community had already escaped to safety, all because Naira saw what no one else could. From that day on, the same children who laughed at her now followed her with admiration, the adults bowed with respect, and travelers listened to her stories with wonder, calling her the girl who saved Naira. Naira learned something powerful, that sometimes the gifts we are mocked for are the very gifts meant to save us and the people we love. And at night, when the sky cranes returned to circle above the village, they always sang the same melody, the one they sang the very first day, and Naira stood tall and proud, her long neck shining under the moon as she finally understood her mother's words. She was never strange, she was chosen. As the seasons shifted in the village of Luwanda, Naira's transformation became the talk of every marketplace, riverbank, and moonlit gathering, because the girl who once walked with her head lowered now moved with a quiet, rising flame inside her. Yet the world had not stopped testing her strength, for even though Zuberi had given her courage, there were still villagers who mocked her behind leaves and laughed behind gourds of palm wine, whispering, "Look, the long-necked girl thinks she's special." And Naira heard every word but did not let them see her tears, keeping them tucked inside like hidden storms. One afternoon, during the annual festival of the first rains, where drums roared and dancers painted in red clay spun like flames, Naira decided she would attend instead of hiding at home, and she braided her hair with cowrie shells, wrapped herself in a deep blue kitenge cloth that shimmered like river light, and stepped into the crowd with trembling yet determined steps. As soon as she arrived, the whispers began, some cruel, some curious, but before shame could swallow her, Zuberi appeared beside her like a quiet guardian, offering her his arm and saying loudly enough for all to hear, "She walks with grace greater than any queen I have ever known." And the entire circle of onlookers fell silent, stunned that the bravest hunter of their region had spoken such words for her. The drumming grew louder, and when the dancers invited Naira to join, she froze for a moment, thinking everyone would laugh, But Zuberi leaned close and whispered, "If they stare, let them stare at your strength." And something inside her cracked open an old wound, releasing light instead of pain, so she stepped forward, lifted her chin, and began to dance. Her movements were soft at first, unsure, but soon her long neck became part of her rhythm, bending and flowing like the tall papyrus reeds along the river, and the villagers who once teased her now watched in silent awe. Even the elders murmured to one another. Perhaps the spirits shaped her differently for a reason. As the night deepened, fireflies filled the air like drifting stars, and Zuberi couldn't stop smiling as he watched Nalia glow in the amber firelight. When the dance ended, the drummers struck their hands against their skins in admiration. Women ululated with joy, and for the first time Nalia felt celebrated rather than tolerated. But her journey was not over, because later that week she overheard two young girls giggling about her again, saying, "Her neck still looks strange," and Nalia almost broke down. But she remembered Zuberi's words and instead walked toward them with calm eyes, telling them gently, "Being different is not a curse unless you choose to make it one." And the girls fell quiet, realizing how strong she had become. Days turned into weeks, and one morning, the royal messengers arrived from the capital kingdom of Luwanda, carrying scrolls trimmed with gold, announcing a grand competition seeking the most graceful women from all tribes to represent beauty, strength, and culture at the king's jubilee. At first, Nalia backed away, thinking she didn't belong in a place filled with perfection. But the village elders insisted she try, not because she was the most beautiful in traditional ways, but because she represented courage, something rarer than physical beauty. Zuberi walked her to the riverbank the night before her departure, and under the moon's silver glow he told her, "You have never seen yourself clearly. But tomorrow the world will." And Nalia felt her heart bloom like a late-season flower refusing to die. When she reached the capital, people gasped, not in mockery but in astonishment, because the long neck that villagers once laughed at now appeared regal, elegant, almost royal, like she carried the wisdom of generations above her shoulders. And when she stepped onto the ceremonial stage, the queen herself stood up from her throne, stunned by Nalia's presence, whispering to her advisors, "She looks touched by the spirits." By the end of the jubilee, when the judges announced the winner, the impossible happened. Nalia of Lufuka village, the girl who was once mocked, was crowned bearer of grace, the highest honor of the celebration, and her story spread across kingdoms as a reminder that sometimes the world hides its rarest beauty inside those who suffer most. When she returned home, the entire village greeted her with drums, songs, and apologies from those who once mocked her. But Nalia forgave them all because she had learned that pain can carve the path for greatness. And as she stood at the hilltop that evening, looking over her village with soft pride, Zuberi joined her and said, "I always knew you were meant for more." And she smiled, touching his hand gently, replying, "Now, I know it too." And with that, the girl with the long neck became a legend whispered to every child across Africa, proof that the thing that makes you different may one day become the reason you shine brighter than everyone else.